Good evening, everybody. Good morning. If you're watching this on the next day, I am Manny Lagunes. Michael Bowie's here with me. We are the story of. Thank you guys once again for tuning in. Before we introduce the man of the hour, I just want to point out Michael Bowie is looking dirtier than usual. Michael, what's going on your end?
That's really funny. Being heckled by Shorty by nature. That's real cute. But yeah, here we are on
You're
the story.
muted.
Audio, first of all. Jesus Christ.
You might want to unmute yourself. Just so you know.
Try it again.
Oh, crap. Well, I had a perfect joke as a response to you then, and then didn't even go over how I intended. I thought I already hit it, but I said that's real cute coming by Shorty by nature. But it is what it is, and I'm glad to have.
Boo.
You don't like Shorty by nature? They were a really good group. Well, he was the low budget version, and we're not going to be heckled by Biz Marquee here. Are we ready? We're going to jump right into. We're going to jump right into the story of where we have Manny Pierce. Now, last episode, the first episode of the story of Emmanuel Pierce, we learned a lot about his family, his childhood, his parents. We learned that his mom had a single parent household, and his father was in prison. Or his dad was in prison. So there's things that we want to jump into because you said that you had this kind of rough life growing up where you were getting into trouble and everything else. And we kind of asked, did that have something to do with the fact of your father being in prison? We didn't really talk about, what he went to prison for. What did your dad go to prison for?
My dad went to prison for murder, first degree murder, which he has a life sentence, currently has a life sentence for.
And you said that these kinds of things did not have an impact within when you got older to understand murder at your age, and this is what your dad went to. How did that impact you? How did you receive that information?
So I actually found out visiting a relative in the summer. I have family that lives in Ohio, in Cincinnati, to be more precise, and I spent a few weeks with them. And that is where I actually learned. They looked my father up on Otis. For those who don't know, the offender tracking information system is the system for Michigan where you can look up people who have gone to prison for their crimes, in or out. It's every state has one. That's just Michigan's. So they looked my dad up. I gave him his name. They looked my dad up, and that was the first time that I saw his charge and his sentence.
Yeah, but for you to know that murder is taking another person's life at that age, how did that change, or did it change your outlook to know that your dad went to prison for that?
I don't think it changed my outlook on him or the situation. Um, I don't know. I was 7 years old, so maybe I didn't take it in the right way, or well, I don't know. But it didn't change my view of him. And people, when you have parents and other people who do stuff that's wrong, it doesn't, it doesn't negate your love for them. You still have a love for that person. It doesn't take away your love or, how you feel about them, their actions. I'm sure that, maybe it hurt other people, but in your mind, you still love them because that's your family. So
You said first degree murder. So he's eligible for parole. Is that right?
no.
He's not eligible for parole?
Yeah, so he has a life without parole.
Okay.
Which is a sentence that can be given up. He has life without parole.
Yeah.
And even when you do have life without parole, they send you to a parole board, but that's
That's a formality.
it's a formality.
Yeah, definitely. So I wanted to ask you, okay, so we know that, and Michael just asked you about how that changed your outlook, right?
Mhm.
On him. Obviously, I guess for those of the viewers that are watching this, you yourself are, I would call accomplished. You're not just another statistic, so to speak, coming from
Mhm.
the short area. We hear about, again, these statistics of young black men always falling into the system. what sort of made you, I mean, you came from a single parent household and your dad was in jail. It seemed like, sort of the odds were stacked against you. So what made you not fall into that system of being just another statistic?
Even though my dad was in prison, both of my parents always pushed me to be successful. My mom would always have me saying, quotes about how I was going to be successful in life or pushing towards my dreams. And one of the things that I can remember is when I finally got out of my little funk of misbehaving in school. I was always a smart kid, always a smart kid. When I finally got out of my little funk of misbehaving, I told my mom, "Oh, I want to be a lawyer." So what she went out and did is she bought me a Harvard sweatshirt and basically encouraged me to say, "You can do whatever you want to do." And so I always had encouragement. I always had support from her and from other family members and other people in my life that always told me that I could do whatever I wanted. And, I obviously accomplished my dream, but still, it was the support of others and the encouragement of my father telling me, even though my dad, even though he was in prison, him telling me, to do the right things, stay in school, stay in the books, giving me important life lessons that as much as he could over the phone. So that just comes from encouragement in the environment that was created around me with other people. It takes a village, and it was a lot of different people that touched my life that helped me get to where I am today.
It's funny that you say about the Harvard sweatshirt because I also had my parents get me one too. I think it's every kid's dream, or many kids' dreams to want to go there, and that slowly fades when you find out the statistics on how many.
Yeah, I did not go. I did not go to Harvard.
but you talk about the village and how many people, and we've already talked about your parents, your dad and your mom being some of those people that were positive influences inside of your life, a part of that village. But a village is more than just two people. Sometimes you don't realize how many people inside this village are that hand that reach out and touch you and inspire you to do better. So at that young age, and I'm just talking, you can go anywhere from birth up until maybe junior high. Who are some of those positive role models? And we'll get to it. It's definitely a segue question. I do want to know some of the negatives, but I do want to focus on the positives right now. Who were some of those positive people in that village?
So, I would say, since we're sticking from the time frame up to junior high, I would say my granddad for sure. My grandmother, both of my grandmothers.
And why? Why were they? I mean, you can name people all day, but what made them this positive influence in your life?
Well, my granddad always, we would have a lot of family get-togethers and stuff like that, and he invested time in me to pique my interest in different things. Like I remember him giving me a Black's Law dictionary. Him, taking the time to try to teach me how to play chess and just piquing my interest in things that kept my mind going. So that is why I would say he was an influence. Because, I knew, I really learned how to play chess in math camp, but I knew how to sort of play chess earlier on because of the things that he taught me. I remember sitting down and asking him questions about how to play chess and teaching me how to play chess or giving me books to read or different things like that. He was somebody who tried to keep my mind going in a successful, positive direction and pique my interest in things that were positive. And that was all of my grandparents. He just did it in his different way. They all helped me in different ways to take care of me and teach me stuff. Like my grandmother worked at the bank, Chase Bank, and I remember getting my first bank account, I believe was in like 7th or 8th grade. So teaching me about money and different things like that. My grandmothers did that. So, I would say those people, but in addition to them, I would say one person that helped me turn around that wasn't a family member was my 5th grade teacher, Mr. Turner, and my 4th grade teacher, Mr. Wright. That's kind of like 4th, 5th grade is kind of when I really came out of that bad behavior mode. And it was because I had 2 strong Black men that were teachers, which was very good for me. and they helped me channel that energy that I had in the classroom into positive directions, and use that to show my brilliance and not just my behind. So, I would definitely reference both of them and the shout out to both of them. And then in church, I had a lot of mentors and guidance in church. Just different men that were around the church. I worked in the youth ministry. The youth pastor, his name was Everett, Pastor Everett. He definitely helped a lot. Just everybody who was there from that age. I say also, my mom had friends that she met in the church, and so another person that really kind of helped me and guided me. His name was Sean Williams. He would teach me things here and there. It's just like, yeah, there were everybody who would teach me something, a little something. Everybody didn't give me everything, but I would learn, okay, this is how you focus on business or be serious about your business. Or an example of what Sean taught me, how to dress for success, right? Suits, he would always have on something nice, like a suit and a tie or a nice shirt. It's a nice pin, how to look like a successful person. It showed like the first time that I went to, I want to say, no, this was the second time I went to a Pistons game. The second time I went to a Pistons game, I got to go on the court because he worked for the Pistons. I got to touch the trophy. I've touched the Larry O'Brien trophy because he worked for the Pistons. So like all those little things, it's just people, just little people here and there touching my life to help me push me to the point that I am. And that's kind of the village. Well, the point that we're at junior high. I haven't gotten to high school and, all that other stuff.
Before we talk about the negative people, and I'm not sure if you had a question, Manny, as well.
No, I was gonna jump into the negative.
There.
Go ahead.
Go
ahead.
I'm curious. You have all these people face to face that are inspiring you. Before we get to the negative ones that have had a negative impact on you, and I'm just curious to know, do you have any regret? Was there any kind of feeling of any sort because your dad wasn't physically there? Whether you were able to call him, whether you were able to go and visit him, at any point in your entire life, was there a point where it was frustration, like,
yeah,
I'm not able to be one-on-one where he's inspiring me the same face-to-face like some of these other positive role models?
Yeah, I don't want to kind of jump ahead in years because at this point, that kind of came later on.
Okay.
When I got to high school.
Well, definitely, I was going to write it down to talk about later. I don't want to jump ahead if it's something that happened later inside of the years. But at least to know that it did happen lets me know that the viewers are going to have to look forward to that, because I don't know. Both of my parents are together. Neither have been inside of jail. So I don't know what that feeling is like. But anybody that's a viewer that's watching that, I'm sure that their feelings are different. Some may have regrets, some may have certain feelings and emotions based on that. So I think that's an important question, and I'm looking forward to delving into that. So looking at some of the negative people that have had impacts, who are some of those people and how did you deal with it?
See, I don't think it was negative. What I would say is what they were doing showed me how I did not want to live my life.
So okay, before you continue, I don't want to cut you off, Manny. But I guess another way that I would ask what Michael just asked you, Michael Bowie, would be sort of, so were you ever like faced with any temptation? I mean, we just talked about the positive things that happened. So just because somebody wasn't like a negative role model, it doesn't mean you weren't faced with certain temptations, right? Can you speak on?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I was very sheltered. That's one thing that my mother did very well. So I was limited in my interactions to things that I should not have been around. The temptations in my life to go down a negative path were cut off by my mother's protectiveness, right? Like one of the things that I could point out about that, and even, this goes even kind of into high school, but, definitely middle school. And as a young kid, I was not allowed to go over to other people's houses. Like if I had friends, they had to come to our house.
That's old school.
Yeah, you get what I'm saying? Like I wasn't allowed to do that. I'm before it gets dark outside, street light comes on, you're in the house. You know what I'm saying? Like middle school was the first time that I had a bike, and I was able to travel to a friend's house. I believe it was eighth grade was the first time that I spent the night at somebody's house. And the only reason that happened is because my mom had to go on a work trip out of town.
Mm.
That was the only reason. And she couldn't find anybody else, family member to watch me. That was the only reason. That was the first time that I ever spent the night at a friend's house. And I had been over to his house just to play basketball, and we were cool, and our parents knew each other very well. You know, they lived 2 blocks away. I could ride my bike over there. But that was the first time that it ever happened. And that happened in 8th grade. So as you can see, I'm already nearing high school. Like, my mom was very old school and protective in that way. So those things were kind of cut in half. I would say what I did see that taught me how to be better is, you know, one, seeing people get out of jail and go back to jail. Like my uncle, he got out of jail and then he went back to jail. You know, family members around me hearing that they're not doing the right things. Seeing how other family members are living, like in rundown houses, and, you know, just not living in proper standards, you know, like seeing people struggle, I think is what really kept me on the right path. You know,
I have just another curious question, because, you know, we're talking about immediate family. Do you have other family as well that are imprisoned or have had a run-in with the law with inside of your immediate family, and how that impact as well has been with that same kind of concept with your dad?
yeah, you know, and there's 2 interesting stories. Yes, I have a lot of family members that have had run-ins with the law. But the other interesting side to the story, and this is still in the middle school range, but you just made me remember this. So when I was in like that elementary, middle school stage, and I was still going to see my dad, my granddad worked at the prison that my dad was at.
Mm.
So he was a correctional officer at the prison that my dad was at. So sometimes when I would go see him,
that's allowed. There's not conflict of interest or anything.
He's not his son. He's not his family member, you know. But he worked at the prison. It's on Mile Road. It used to be on Mile Road. I don't think it's a prison anymore. But it used to be on Mile Road. My granddad worked at the prison that my dad was in. And so when I would go see my dad, sometimes my granddad would be at work, you know. So, you know, that's another little complicated twist to things, you know. Like, my granddad is on the opposite side, which is a good thing. But like, yeah, I have family members that have run-ins with the law. Does that make me love them less? No. But I try to learn from their actions. Mm-hmm. And I think that has been my biggest especially as I got older, my motivational factor to stay on the right path is because I've seen so many times what doing the wrong thing leads to. I have so many examples of people doing the wrong thing. And it's not even just to say doing the wrong thing, just not even just that, family members struggling to make it, you know, like that is, you picture that in your head and that's not the life you want to live. I see family members struggling to make it. And then there's this dichotomy of when I go to church or when I see my church friends and I see their family and I see their house and how they live as opposed to how my family lives. It persuades you like, okay, I want to live like this, you know?
Yeah. So one more question before we let my not so handsome co-host.
Well, you know, all I have to do is say, keep it short. With your
I will. No pun intended. So I have to ask, you know, because in the first episode, you told us a little bit about this one friend, you know, who you sort of, you considered a friend, right? You had a friend who you would ride bikes with and whatnot. But you also mentioned about how you were sort of a troublemaker and you had a lot of anger built inside you in your early years. So I guess now we are sort of over that hump, right? Of being this angry kid that's, you know, causing trouble.
Right.
How did that change and how did that play? You changing for the better. How did that play into your relationship making back into school?
So I didn't have many friends in school. I would say second
Right.
third, fourth, and fifth grade, just because, again, that was the time that I was working through my
Yeah.
issues. Sixth grade, that got a little better. And then I moved schools in seventh grade. And that's when I started making friends in school. And that was still difficult. The problem for me is I was smart, and I was one of those smart kids that didn't know there's a code in middle school, right? And in school in general, is you can be smart, but you be smart in a quiet way. You don't always put it out on 4th Street. And I would just answer questions and, just put it out there. And so that didn't lend itself to uh, making a lot of friends. My outlet for making a lot of friends, and I've always been a different kind of person in this way, is I was smart, but I played athletics, right? So I made friends naturally by playing basketball. So the person whose house I rode to on my bike, he was on the basketball team. All my friends that I made at that school were on the basketball team. We happened to be friends because of that. And so, and I was also a chubby kid too. So that didn't help me either. Chubby, smart, it's not a good mix. So, that was kind of the dichotomy for me. And one of the things that happened with my friendships is 8th grade year, we were playing basketball and we had a practice. And the dude that I used to go to his house on the bike, we kind of got into, a little exchange of words of practice. We're running a scrimmage, we're going at each other or whatever. And so he pushes me off the court. So then I push him, and then we get into a huge fight.
What's his name? Logan Paul and Mayweather here.
We get into a huge fight, and that kind of ended our friendship. We hung around other people, sort of other people, but that kind of ended our friendship just off of that. So that was kind of my first, I had a friend that I really liked, and then we just stopped being friends because of something that happened. So that's just, friendships were very hard for me in that way. And then another point, segueing to something else that helped me along, that I have to mention this. I would be remiss if I mentioned this. So in 7th grade, I did really good in math, and my math teacher brought my mom in and said, I'm teaching him all that I can, but he's advanced and he needs to do something. There's this math camp at Wayne State. It's called Math Corps. You should sign your son up for it to do it. Now, me as a 7th grader wanting to have my summer, I'm like, no, I don't want to do no stupid math camp. I don't want to do it. But again, my mom is a very strong-willed woman, so it doesn't matter what I wanted to do. I went to math camp. And that was the best thing for me. And I'll tell you why. That place, Math Corps, is a place where they encourage children to show their brilliance. And it's taught. So the way it works is you have high school students teaching middle school students. They teach you how to do math. So you have what is called a TA, or teacher's assistant. That's the person that's teaching you, that's grading your homework, teaching you how to do whatever it is you're doing. So that is a very unique setup in it of its own. But then it's just the environment that it encourages. They teach you how to play chess. They teach you how to do magic tricks. It's more than just math camp. It's so much more than just math camp. It's a great concept to get kids in the door, but it's so much more than that. It teaches you how to be a good, kind person. And if you live in the Detroit area, I highly suggest, and they're branched out all over the place, but I highly suggest looking into math. So that also helped me. And, there were people there that touched and changed my lives. A lot of people that I met, a lot of my CIs or college instructors that oversaw our whole team. Mr. Bohm, who was one of the people that originally came up with the idea for Math Corps, Mr. Khan. I had so many people there that touched me, and TAs that touched me. I'll reference two who were in middle school, so I don't jump to the high school years, but Dominique Burton and Chris Anderson were their names. And they were good mentors for me as well, to see older kids letting me know that it's okay to be who I am. So that was also formative as I got to that eighth grade year. That was very formative.
Well, I think that because I did Kumon with math, so I know those kinds of math programs that are inspiring. I for one am a huge fan of math as well. I used to do long division. I'm sure Lagunes did short division. Um,
Nerd.
but that's just the moral of the story of how math changes. But I think that we've learned a lot here inside of this topic, and touching base on your younger years. And like I said, I already look forward. I have many questions, and I'm sure other people that are watching have many questions where they want to learn more about what came next. So I look forward to the next episode where we touch base on maybe your junior high into high school kind of years, as that kind of transitions, and how that life was going for you at that young age, with your dad being in prison and a single mom household with many a kid. So I want to thank you, Manny, for being on here. Thank my other co-host Lagunes for being here and helping, make sure that this sets the tone for the story of Emmanuel Pierce.
Can I ask a question?
You say what?
Can I ask a question?
Definitely not, but I'm sure that you're going to. Go ahead.
See, I got a question too. You say you like to do long division.
Okay, I already feel like
I've seen you do math and different things like that. So I was just wondering what camp you went to, so that way I can tell the kids to avoid that, because I don't want them to end up like this.
It's usually just a banter between me. It's usually just a banter between me and Lagunes, but while we're doing math, I can find a way to subtract you from the show. But I want to thank you for being here, and everybody for tuning in, so that we can learn more about the story of Emmanuel Pierce. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell. Do all that jazz. Send some smoke signals up. Tie a little note to a pigeon's leg. Put a message in a bottle. Throw it in the water. Let it reach our shores. Let us know what you guys think about the episode. And stay tuned for next week, where we will jump into episode 3 of Emmanuel Pierce. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Take care.